Back in 1990, our 41st president, George H.W. Bush, created quite a stir when he said, "I'm president of the United States. I'm not going to eat any more broccoli." His mom had made him eat it when he was a kid, and he never liked it. But in spite of that PR black eye from the president, broccoli is a very popular vegetable. It is loved for its flavor, but also, as moms and dads everywhere will tell you, for its nutritional benefits, for its vitamins, the fiber, the potassium, the iron. Broccoli is powerful enough to withstand the haters. I'm Charity Nebbe. On this episode of Iowa Ingredient, we'll meet a grower who brings his family together to produce veggies, including broccoli, in the Iowa City area. Then Des Moines restaurateur chef David Borusio will show us the astounding versatility of this veggie when he prepares 2 dishes incorporating broccoli. All that and more coming up next on Iowa Ingredient.
Funding for Iowa Ingredient has been provided by a grant from the W.T. and Edna M. Dahl Trust, Chef Lisa Laval of Trellis Cafe and Chef Michael Laval of the Des Moines Embassy Club. For more than 100 years, the Des Moines Embassy Club has provided a place to dine, celebrate, and do business. Located in downtown Des Moines and in West Des Moines, details are at embassyclub.com. Friends, the Iowa Public Television Foundation.
If you look closely at broccoli florets, you see these little tiny nubs, and they're actually little clusters of flower buds. We harvest and eat them before they bloom because broccoli tastes better that way. Broccoli has a long history in Italy, but a fairly short history in the United States. It was introduced by immigrants from southern Italy, and it didn't become popular here until the 1920s. It's a hardy vegetable. It loves to grow in cool conditions. Many farmers can have 2 plantings a year, one in the early spring and one in the early fall. Feast your eyes on one of the most beloved vegetables in America, broccoli. Wait, what? That can't be right. Everyone hates broccoli. Or do they? If you look at recent surveys, broccoli has found a nice, comfy spot on America's dinner plates. Maybe it's because people have figured out how to properly prepare it and couple it with complementary flavors in a meal. Farmers have also become experts at growing broccoli, harvesting it, and getting it into consumers' hands quickly.
This stuff is picked and harvested and into the stores within 24 hours. So which is great for the stores because they're not throwing near the amount of stuff away. It's coming in fresh, it's not 3 or 4 days old.
This is Northern Ridge Berry Farms. They definitely grow berries, but they also produce loads of other fresh ingredients too, including broccoli.
We start planting our broccoli the 1st of March. We go in the greenhouse and we plant 2,000 to 3,000 every week. And then we start putting it in the 1st of April. 2 years ago, we got some real hard frost on early plants in April. And I thought, man, we just lost 10,000 broccoli plants. It didn't seem to bother them. So once we start planting the 1st of April, we'll plant every week, 2,000 to 3,000 plants every week. And hopefully they'll be staged out so when the orders start coming in, we can keep them full.
David sells his broccoli and other produce to local grocery stores, restaurants, and right here on the farm. It's a family operation. 3 generations have farmed on this land. It's just part of life for David's daughters.
Probably started around I was 10 or so, and then nonstop since.
Harvesting the main head on the broccoli plant is easy.
The best way to harvest it is just take a knife and make a nice clean cut.
You can extend the harvest season by leaving the plants in the garden after the main head is taken.
A lot of people I've talked to will cut the head off and then they pull the plant thinking it's done. It's not. The plant's object is to create seed for its offspring for next year, so it's going to do whatever it can to produce more seed. And broccoli is great at that. They'll start throwing off shoots, and they're little florets. And the early florets can get about this big, and the more you pick them, the smaller they'll get. And then all of a sudden they get too small, you don't even want to bother with it.
And those tree-looking flower buds on the head of broccoli? Well, if you let them go to seed, they'll flower in a big way. Working in the warmth and sunshine is a huge bonus for everyone who works at Northern Ridge. But harvesting this much broccoli does take commitment.
This is a little bit more labor intensive because you have to plant everything, you have to keep track of how it's growing. Some stuff might not be ready in the morning, and then later that afternoon you go out and check it and it'll be ready.
Northern Ridge Berry Farm is doing its part to keep broccoli's reputation strong, one harvest day at a time.
It's just a proud feeling that people want to buy our stuff. You know, it makes me feel like I'm doing something right and something the community wants.
The fish is 4 or 5 minutes away.
On our third season of Iowa Ingredient, we invited the always brilliant Chef David Borusio to cook with tomatoes. His 2 dishes tantalized our taste buds and were elegant but simple. Chef David, thank you so much.
Thank you. It's good to be here. Thank you.
If you were to visit any one of his restaurants in the Des Moines area, you'd find a common theme. Great tasting food using the best ingredients Iowa has to offer.
You know, what inspired me mainly is the product of the moment.
Yeah, I like to have my hands in the ground in the morning. That's beautiful, look at that. Perfect size.
I like to classify my type of cuisine of, you know, contemporary, but also what we call in France, cuisine de marché.
Yeah, beautiful. So much good flavor into those, eh?
So it's based on, hey, this is what I find best at this time. And you know, I think the real star in a restaurant is not the chef, it's the product that you put in the plate for the people.
Beautiful.
You know, sometimes less is more. I think sometimes simplicity is good, you know, making good, honest food. That's what I want to do, and that's what we do in all our restaurants. And that's what we believe in anyway.
A little tomato, a little salad, little onions, a little balsamic, and olive oil from Sicily. Lunch is covered.
And now I'm here in the kitchen with Chef David, and we are going to do some cooking with broccoli today. What are we going to make?
We're gonna do what we're gonna do is a broccoli salad with some blue cheese, bacon, and a vinaigrette that is made out of buttermilk.
Ooh,
It's gonna be good.
Amazing. All right, how do we get started?
I'm gonna just clean some broccoli.
And a lot of broccoli salads are made with raw broccoli, but
Correct.
we're not going to have.
No, we're gonna cook it.
All right.
So it's gonna be you know, a little bit more time-consuming, but the result is gonna be nice, and we're gonna have a wonderful color.
Awesome.
So voila. So our broccoli is cooked. So now I'm gonna cook it.
Okay.
And for
we've got
that-
a pot of boiling water already
That's
set
correct.
up here.
So boiling water, just a little bit of salt, and we're just gonna dump our broccoli in there for about just 2 minutes. The idea of that is not to fully cook the broccoli, but mainly to stop the coloration, so we have that nice green.
Oh, okay.
We're gonna take the broccoli out of the water and put it on the side for later.
All right.
Voila.
And that is such a vibrant green.
It is,
Wonderful.
yes. So now we're gonna do the salad dressing. To go
All
with
right.
it. So for that, we need some bacon that we're gonna start slicing and sauteing. So I got beautiful Maplewood smoked bacon here. I'm just gonna line it up here. And we're gonna slice it, just like kind of a rough slice. And what we want to melt it down. We want the bacon to be a little bit crispy, but not too much. You know, it's kind of a nice slow process. We want so that you release all this fat, and we're gonna reutilize the fat in the salad dressing.
Okay.
It smells good. I love the smell of bacon. We'll proceed with the remaining of the salad dressing. First of all, we're gonna go with the mayonnaise, just a little bit, just like this. Then touch of the mustard. And we're gonna start whisking that just by itself, just to emulsify it. Perfect. Then we're gonna add the buttermilk.
Why buttermilk?
You know, high fat content, it preserves better, melts better, and tangy, yes. So then we'll take a little bit of the blue cheese now. So here we go. So blue cheese, I mean, really go as much as you like. It's about, you know, it's about what you like. There's no, I wouldn't say there is a real quantity that you want. I like blue cheese, so I'm gonna go a little more than probably I should.
And you can just crumble it up once it gets in there.
You just crumble it up
All
with the
right.
whisk. So it's got nice and it's incorporating very well. And we'll finish up with the acid based on what we need and what we like. So I'm going to take a little bit of that fat from the bacon here. And that's our, there we go. See how the bacon is getting crispy? Mm-hmm. Then we mix that. So bacon fat. So very, you know, very simple recipe, very, you know, kind of authentic, good touch of Iowa and French in here, which I like.
Yeah, it's really a wonderful blend of Iowa and French,
yes,
really.
For sure. So that's so good emulsion, nice blue color. And I'm gonna put a little bit of cracked pepper. And I'm not gonna put any salt in that.
Okay.
I'm gonna finish up with the vinegar, a little touch of acid. So I would definitely not use any other vinegar than white, because otherwise you're gonna lose the color of the blue cheese.
Right, and it is a beautiful color.
Yeah.
It's really nice. All right, that looks
Voila.
beautiful.
So now we're gonna proceed with the plating. So what we do, we arrange all that like very nicely. I like to use that little wooden board and with the chart here, but you know, any plate will do the job. Our broccoli is nicely arranged.
Lovely.
So now we're gonna work on drizzling the salad dressing just a little bit everywhere. Wow. See, there's so much you can do with the salad. I mean, there's salad and there's salad. So I like the different color like this, and a little bit of red will be great.
A generous helping of dressing.
Jennifer, yeah, always more dressing than we need. Now I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of the bacon in here. See, fairly easy to do. Great color, good texture, great flavor. Very Iowa. And for color, I think I'll add a couple pieces of radish here and there. So we have some color too. Finish up with cracked pepper.
Nice.
Et voilà, bon appétit.
All right. Let's try a little bit of this.
Sorry.
All right.
Still crunchy and good color.
That is delicious.
Thank you.
Yeah, Chef David, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
All right, we have our broccoli salad with blue cheese and bacon. What are we going to make now?
Now we're gonna make what I call a broccoli mousse.
Broccoli mousse.
Broccoli mousse,
All right.
savory, could be used as a garnish, but here we're gonna do it as its own dish. Gonna make a mousse, incorporate some hazelnuts, fresh green, and a poached egg.
Wonderful. All right, so we start pretty much the same way, right?
It's pretty much the same way. Again, we go to broccoli, cut the stem off, discard. Voila. Then we'll break it apart as much as we can. In this instance, in that dish, we want our broccoli to be cooked in full, like entirely.
Nice and soft.
Nice and soft. Like, to be honest with you, overcooked. Like
Okay.
all the way down.
Soggy broccoli.
Soggy broccoli, yes.
I'm familiar with how that tastes.
Soggy broccoli, yes.
Not
Voila.
usually what we're looking for,
Nope.
but
Voila. So again, we're gonna cook this.
all right.
So just as before, salted water. Voila.
All right. And we've got it at a nice simmer.
Perfect.
Do we want?
Nice simmer? Yeah, we want to go high. We want to go to boiling point here.
Okay.
And while this is happening, we're gonna roast our hazelnuts here.
All right, and I have a pan for that.
Perfect.
What do we have to do?
So
prepare?
very simple. We take our hazelnuts here, put them on a parchment paper on a tray that can go in the oven.
And you've already gotten the skins off.
Already the skins off, yeah. Just gonna oil it slightly. Some salt. And mix it up.
You want a nice coating
Nice
of the
coating,
oil
yeah.
on all
Perfect.
the nuts.
Nice and shiny and nicely seasoned. And then we'll put this in the oven.
Okay. All right, and how long and how hot?
About 375 degrees, and I will put it on charbroil. If you
Okay.
don't have convection, otherwise convection, and you want to watch it, you want, just a tiny little gold color.
Okay.
So then, during this time, we can heat up some cream. And
Cream in there and
lots of
plenty
butter.
of butter.
Plenty of butter. French cuisine is all about lots of butter. More is better.
And always unsalted?
I use unsalted, yeah. Wow. So we'll season that, just gently. A little bit of pepper. Voila. Now we just gotta wait a few minutes.
All right.
Looks like our broccoli are ready.
All right, and again, we cooked this a lot longer than last time, but
Way longer.
And as you look at it, it's smushy and
Yes.
it kind of falls apart when you squeeze it.
That's
right?
what we want.
And then we're gonna shock it just the way we did last time, right?
Exactly,
Okay, I will get to work on that. We've taken the hazelnuts
Out.
out.
Yep. And we're gonna let them cool down, and then we're gonna rough chop them. Voila. So perfect.
All right, you ready to add this in?
Yes, we're gonna add this in. Absolutely. Wonderful. So what we want is a very kind of a soupy consistency.
Now that the mousse is done, it's time to chop up hazelnuts, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So for poching the eggs, some water that we're going to bring to simmering with a little touch of salt and a little bit of vinegar. The vinegar is going to help to have the egg white to wrap up around the yolk.
Okay, helps the egg hold together.
And we just wait. I think our egg looks ready, so we can start plating now.
Wonderful.
Go right on the center of the
All right, and I will have a
center of the plate.
taste a little bit of that before it gets
Thank you.
all covered up.
Yes.
That is delicious. That is so delicious. Wow.
Thank you. So then we'll take our eggs here. So we place the egg right in the middle, in the center. Then we'll garnish with the hazelnuts. Just nicely all over. We'll garnish here with a few leaves here and there. So again, you know, very simple process. It's all about the flavor and the season.
Oh, beautiful.
Voila. And we'll finish up with some cracked pepper. Voila.
Perfect.
Bon
Chef
appetit.
David, that's
My pleasure.
beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On Fridays in eastern Iowa, you might spot a stealthy figure slipping in and out of your neighborhood. His mission is to collect food waste and prevent it from going to the landfill. He's Aaron Hansen, and he's the Compost Ninja.
I caught wind of this happening in some other metropolitan areas, and I just thought, wow, what a great idea. We could do this here, especially since Iowa is such an agricultural state. Like, we've got the space to do it. There's tons of farms and things like that that can be used to convert this food waste into compost rather than taking it to the landfill. One of the largest contributors to global warming is methane gas emissions. One of the largest contributors to methane gas emissions is food waste from the landfill. Because what happens is the food waste goes to the landfill and it mixes with your half bottles of Windex and Clorox and all of the other stuff that's in there, and plastics and metals, and it creates these chemical reactions that basically give us this methane gas.
Households and businesses in Iowa, Johnson, and Linn counties can sign up for the service online. They receive a bucket to fill with food scraps and a few other materials like pizza boxes, coffee filters, and paper plates.
We challenge people to take the initiative to actually get in the habit of diverting. And all we ask them to do is sign up. I come by that following Friday, simply drop the pail off outside. They'll set it next to their trash can, under their sink, outside their front door, whatever works best for them. We just ask them to fill that bucket according to that list on the lid, the yes and the no side. So basically, you're going to put your organic material, including your meat, shellfish, dairy products, small bones, chicken bones, fish bones, into that pail instead of your trash can. You set it outside once a week, every Friday. We come by, we exchange it with a fresh sanitized pail. It's got a biodegradable liner in it, so it kind of helps us keep them clean.
Compost is created when organic matter mixes with water and oxygen. Microorganisms go to work breaking the material down into a simpler substance. Aaron assists the process by adding wood chips, turning the piles, and monitoring the temperature.
When we do our mixing, when we put the food waste in and we add the wood chips, it's kind of a smell, feel kind of thing. You're looking for that real nice black material. No chunks of, no real big chunks of food and things like that, making sure it gets aerated, keeping the oxygen going through it, and it cooks on its own. There's not a lot we have to do. We're more maintaining it than actually doing anything.
Once the compost is ready, it's a rich source of nutrients for your garden. Compost Ninja's customers can choose to have their share delivered to their home or business, or they can donate it to a community garden. The idea of using food to create more food fulfills Aaron's desire to be a part of the solution.
But when I average it all out, when it's all said and done, each customer will have diverted around 500 pounds per year. So that's pretty big. You know, and then the big thing that I preach to people is, myself included, we're all part of the problem, right? Every time we take something that's biodegradable and we throw it into the trash, it's headed for the landfill, and we're contributing to that problem. So in today's world, it's really hard to get away from doing that completely, but I think that we've got to start somewhere. It's one pizza crust at a time.
That's it for this episode. Thank you for celebrating the resourcefulness of Iowans with us. I'm Charity Nebbe. See you next time for another delicious and nutritious episode of Iowa Ingredient. As you can probably guess, the Iowa Ingredient staff appreciates everything about the food scene in Iowa. And in 2016 and early 2017, we visited the restaurants, farms, and other locations showcased on this program. But circumstances can change, so we encourage you to check ahead if you're planning a visit of your own. We hope you get the chance to get out there and enjoy Iowa's fabulous food experiences for yourself.
Funding for Iowa Ingredient has been provided by a grant from the W.T. and Edna M. Dahl Trust, Chef Lisa Laval of Trellis Cafe and Chef Michael Laval of the Des Moines Embassy Club. For more than 100 years, the Des Moines Embassy Club has provided a place to dine, celebrate, and do business. Located in downtown Des Moines and in West Des Moines, details are at embassyclub.com. Friends, the Iowa Public Television Foundation.